Think today's kids have it better. Let's go back to the 1980s. The screech of a ZX Spectrum loading, the thrill of a conker smashing your rivals, the pure chaos of British Bulldog. If you grew up in the 1980s Britain, these memories are burned into your bones. Today's kids will never understand the freedom we had, roaming neighbourhoods until dark. But here's the crucial difference: surviving without smartphones and constant supervision. And somehow we turned out all right, most of us. Join me as we explore 20 nostalgic activities from 1980s Britain that today's kids will never experience. If you remember these, you're officially vintage, but in the best possible way. No texting, no WhatsApp, no planning. You'd simply walk to your mate's house, knock on the door, and hope they were in. Sometimes you'd face their mum in her dressing gown or their dad looking mildly annoyed at the interruption. The courage it took, the sheer nerve of it. There was always that moment of suspense. Would they be allowed out? Had they finished their homework? Were they grounded? This simple act taught us social skills, patience, and how to read adults' facial expressions very quickly. Today's kids will never know the thrill of hearing your friend's mum shout upstairs, "David, your friend's at the door," and the thundering footsteps that followed. Wasn't that the best feeling ever? Tell me, what was the most nerve-wracking doorstep moment you had? Drop your story in the comments below. Before iPads and Netflix, we were master architects of our own cosy hideaways. The living room would transform into a magical fortress with just a few strategically placed chairs, sofa cushions pulled from their rightful places, and blankets draped carefully overhead. The engineering skills required were immense. One wrong move and the whole structure would collapse. Inside these fabric caves, we'd read comics by torchlight, share secrets, and pretend we were anywhere but suburban Britain. Parents would inevitably complain about the mess, but they always gave us just 5 more minutes before dismantling our masterpiece. Those forts weren't just blankets and cushions. They were where we dreamed big, shared secrets and felt safe in a world we built ourselves. The playground was a trading floor, and we were the Wall Street brokers of the sticker world. In Britain, Panini football stickers were the commodity. Got, need. The thrill of opening a fresh packet, the despair of getting duplicates, the strategic negotiations to complete your album. We'd save pocket money for weeks just to buy a few packets, fingers crossed for that elusive shiny. The mathematics was complex, calculating the probability of getting the last few needed stickers versus buying the whole album outright. Parents never understood why we'd spend 50 pence on 5 random stickers when we could buy a chocolate bar instead. The satisfaction of finally completing an album was unmatched, a childhood achievement worthy of display. Today's digital collections just don't have the same tactile joy. Panini stickers were our version of trading rare Fortnite skins, but with actual glue and glitter. Remember those oddly charming, slightly ugly dolls with adoption papers and unique names? Cabbage Patch dolls weren't just toys, they were a cultural phenomenon. The Christmas of '83 saw parents literally fighting in toy shops to get their hands on one. Each doll came with its own birth certificate and adoption papers, making them feel eerily real. We'd proudly display our Xavier Roberts signed dolls, comparing their cloth faces and yarn hair. Some kids had the fancy ones with the porcelain faces, sparking intense jealousy. We'd take them everywhere, feed them pretend food, and tuck them in at night. The bizarre origin story that they were born in a cabbage patch somehow made perfect sense to our young minds. These dolls taught us responsibility and care before Tamagotchis made it digital. Quick check, Gatsa, which of these did you obsess over as a kid? Hit the like button if you collected Panini stickers or had a Cabbage Patch doll. How many injuries did you suffer or inflict with a good old game of British Bulldog? The rules were simple, but brutal. One person was the bulldog in the middle, and everyone else had to run from one end of the playground to the other without being caught. If caught, you became a bulldog too. The game would escalate until it was a chaotic mess of children charging, tackling, and occasionally crying. Scraped knees, torn trousers, and the occasional bloody nose were badges of honour. Teachers would pretend not to see the carnage unfolding until someone inevitably got hurt badly enough to warrant a ban. The thrill of making it across untouched, dodging the grasping hands of your classmates, was unmatched. Today's health and safety culture has relegated this game to nostalgic memory, perhaps for good reason. The pixelated gateways to digital worlds. The Spectrum's rubber keys and rainbow stripe became iconic symbols of British computing. Loading games from cassette tapes was an exercise in patience. That screeching noise haunts our dreams still. Our tape loading error would crush our spirits after waiting 20 minutes. The graphics were basic by today's standards, blocky characters and limited colours, but our imaginations filled in the gaps. Jet Set Willy, Manic Miner and Horace Goes Skiing consumed our afternoons. The Atari joystick gave us blisters as we played Pac-Man and Space Invaders until our parents demanded we stop rotting our brains. We'd swap pirated games on the playground, sharing the latest titles with friends. The loading time was just part of the experience. If you've ever shouted R-tape loading error at your tape deck, smash that like button and share what Spectrum game was your all-time favourite. Before caller ID ruined the fun, the landline telephone was our instrument of mischief. We'd dial random numbers, ask if their refrigerator was running, then tell them to catch it. The classic, "Is your television on?" "Well, you better turn it off then. It's coming through on my radio," had us in fits of giggles. Phone boxes were perfect for these anonymous hijinks. We'd pile in with a handful of 10-pence coins, taking turns to dial. The bravest would call the local chip shop to order non-existent items. Sometimes we'd dial numbers and just breathe heavily before hanging up, thinking ourselves the height of comedy. Parents would discover the mischief when the phone bill arrived, showing mysterious calls at suspicious times. Today's kids, with their traceable smartphones, will never know this simple, slightly naughty pleasure. The Rubik's Cube, the colourful puzzle that frustrated an entire generation. Everyone had one, few could solve it. The satisfying click as you turned each face, the growing despair as you made the pattern worse instead of better. Some kids claimed they could solve it in minutes, but we never actually saw them do it. The desperate would peel off the stickers and reapply them. A cheat immediately obvious to everyone. Books were published solely to help solve this maddening cube, becoming bestsellers overnight. School playgrounds were filled with children twisting and turning, tongues sticking out in concentration. The rare child who could actually solve it achieved instant celebrity status. Some parents would help by scrambling it even more. The sweet victory when you finally got one face completely one colour, even if the rest was chaos. The Scout Association was where we earned badges for everything from fire lighting to knot tying. Thursday nights meant donning the uniform. Green shirt, navy trousers, and that yellow and green neckerchief, and reciting the Scout Promise. We'd learn practical skills like map reading and first aid alongside bizarre traditions like the Grand Howl for cubs. Camping trips were the highlight, sleeping in canvas tents regardless of weather, cooking sausages on open fires and singing around the campfire until late. The badge system was genius, turning us into achievement-hungry collectors desperate to fill our sleeves with embroidered proof of our outdoor prowess. Parents loved it because it got us out of the house and taught us discipline. Bob-a-Job Week had us knocking on neighbours' doors, offering to wash cars or weed gardens for pocket money. Every neighbourhood had that one perfect climbing tree, the one with low branches for beginners and impossibly high ones for the brave. We'd spend hours scaling these wooden towers, establishing pecking orders based on who could climb highest. Parents had no idea how high we actually went. Just to that branch there was always a lie. The view from the top was our reward, surveying our kingdom like monarchs. Occasionally, someone would get stuck, too scared to climb down, resulting in embarrassing rescue operations involving dads and ladders. Tree climbing taught us risk assessment, strength and problem solving, skills now outsourced to health and safety approved playground equipment. The occasional fall and broken arm was just part of childhood, a badge of honour rather than cause for litigation. Today's kids rarely experience this vertical freedom. If you ever got stuck in a tree, give this video a thumbs up and tell us how high up you were. The smell of those tiny explosions is impossible to forget. A distinctive sulphurous pop that lingered on your fingers after reenacting your granddad's favourite scene of the Magnificent Seven. We'd strut around the neighbourhood, plastic six-shooters tucked into our waistbands ready for imaginary shootouts. The red paper rolls of caps were currency, traded, hoarded and occasionally sacrificed in spectacular fashion by smashing an entire roll with a rock. The disappointment when a cap failed to fire was immense, followed by the satisfaction of using a fingernail to manually detonate it. Parents somehow thought these miniature explosives were appropriate toys, despite the noise and mild gunpowder. We'd save up for the fancier metal guns that looked almost real, something unthinkable in today's world. Cowboys and Indians, cops and robbers, politically incorrect games fueled by these noisy toys. Seaside arcades were temples of entertainment filled with flashing lights and the promise of winning big. We'd change pound notes into bags of 10-pence pieces, determined to master Space Invaders or Pac-Man. The two pea-pusher machines would tease us for hours. Surely that pile of coins was about to fall. Grabber machines were clearly rigged, but we tried anyway. The driving games with actual seats were the premium experience, worth saving coins for. Skill levels were determined by how long you could make your money last. The arcade attendant with his change belt was like a god to us, dispensing more chances at glory. The sticky floors, the slightly dodgy characters lurking by the fruit machines, it was all part of the atmosphere. The ancient art of folding paper into tiny triangles and covertly sliding them across desks while the teacher wasn't looking is something kids today would never master. These handwritten messages, often featuring the critical question, "Do you like me?" Yes, no, maybe, with boxes to tick, were our social media. The risk of interception by teachers added delicious danger to every exchange. We developed elaborate passing chains with trusted intermediaries moving notes between classrooms during break times. Some notes were works of art decorated with bubble writing and doodles. The mortification when a teacher intercepted and read one aloud was social death. We'd use codes and abbreviations that predated text speak. SWALK, sealed with a loving kiss, on the back of envelopes. These physical messages taught us patience, having to wait for a response rather than seeing instant typing bubbles. Can you believe we had to wait days just for a reply? If you remember the agony of paper notes or tape recordings, tap the like and share your most memorable message. Remember your first roller disco? Where questionable music, flashing lights, and dangerous wheels combined to create magic. Friday nights at the local leisure centre, we'd strap on quad skates, inlines were for showing off, and attempt to look cool while clinging to the side rail. The disco lights transformed the sports hall into something almost glamorous. Boys and girls would circle each other nervously, working up courage to ask for a couple's skate. The DJ would inevitably play Thriller and everyone would attempt the dance moves, with predictably disastrous results. The snack bar sold overpriced slush puppies that turned our tongues blue. Falling was inevitable, but style points were awarded for how you recovered. The cool kids could skate backwards or do jumps. The smell of sweaty feet and disinfectant from the hired skates is impossible to forget. These wheeled gatherings were our first taste of independent social life. Ever throw a lawn dart directly at your sibling? Essentially giant metal-tipped missiles we were allowed to throw around the garden. These lethal weapons disguised as family fun had metal spikes that could penetrate the ground from impressive heights. The game was simple. Throw the darts into plastic rings on the lawn, but the potential for disaster was enormous. Somehow, parents thought nothing of letting children hurl these dangerous projectiles skyward, often while adults enjoyed drinks nearby. The satisfying thunk as a dart landed perfectly in the target was worth the risk of impalement. Games would inevitably devolve into seeing how high we could throw them, watching nervously as they disappeared into the sun before plummeting back to earth. Eventually banned for obvious safety reasons, lawn darts represent a time when childhood came with real physical danger. and we survived anyway. The art of hovering over the record and play buttons, waiting for the perfect moment to capture your favourite song, was a coveted skill to impress your first girlfriend. The frustration when the DJ talked over the intro or cut the end short. We'd spend hours crafting the perfect compilation, carefully planning the track order for maximum emotional impact. The hiss of the tape, the occasional background noise, it was all part of the charm. Writing out the track listing in tiny letters on the paper insert was a labour of love. These homemade compilations were currency of affection. Making one for your crush was a declaration of feelings. The skill involved in timing the recording perfectly, avoiding adverts and unwanted songs, was considerable. Each tape represented hours of dedication, patience, and musical curation. A far cry from today's instant playlists. There was only one thing to do in the 1980s with 10 pence for a child. Pick and mix. Those glass jars of colourful sweets were a child's dream. Fizzy cola bottles, milk teeth, flying saucers, and those pink shrimps that tasted nothing like seafood. Armed with just 10 pence, we'd agonise over our selections, trying to maximise our haul. The shopkeeper would watch suspiciously as we deliberated, occasionally barking, "Hurry up," if we took too long. The tiny paper bags would be weighed on brass scales, and we'd pray we hadn't gone over budget. The walk home was a sugar-fueled journey of joy, rationing our treasures to make them last. Some sweets were traded with friends. Blackjacks were divisive currency. The freedom of being trusted to go to the shop alone, making independent consumer decisions with our own money, was an important rite of passage that today's supervised children rarely experience. Autumn meant one thing: scouring parks for the shiniest, largest horse chestnuts to become our champion conkers. Conkers were horse chestnuts we turned into a game, like Pokemon battles, but with real-world stakes. Threading them with string was an art form requiring parental help and a metal skewer. The playground became a battleground of swinging nuts, with strict rules and counting. 1Z, 2Z, 3Z. Victory came when you shattered your opponent's conker, adding their score to yours. The serious players had secret hardening techniques, baking them in the oven, soaking in vinegar, or storing them in dark cupboards for a year. Some legendary conkers achieved mythical status. My brother's got a 67er. The game taught us physics, strategy, and how to lose gracefully or not. Teachers would confiscate particularly dangerous specimens. The sting on cold fingers when a conker struck was part of the experience. No pain, no gain. Feeling nostalgic yet? Which of these would you teach a kid today to keep the spirit alive? Comment below. I'd love to hear your ideas. Writing letters to pen pals from seemingly exotic places like France or America. The thrill of receiving an envelope with foreign stamps and strange postmarks was unmatched. We'd carefully select colourful stationery, practice our neatest handwriting, and include small treasures, stickers, photos, or pressed flowers. School would arrange these international friendships, promising cultural exchange but delivering mostly awkward descriptions of pets and hobbies. We'd wait weeks for replies, checking the letterbox daily with mounting anticipation. The joy when a letter finally arrived. Reading about lives so different yet somehow similar to our own expanded our worldview before the internet made it small. We'd learn snippets of foreign languages, collect exotic stamps, and dream of visiting these faraway friends. These slow-motion friendships taught patience and the lost art of thoughtful correspondence that today's instant messaging can never replicate. Before digital entertainment dominated, these cardboard kingdoms ruled our wet weekends. Setting up Mousetrap was an engineering feat. That Rube Goldberg-inspired contraption rarely worked properly, but the anticipation was magical. Monopoly games would stretch for days, with fierce property battles causing genuine family feuds. Hotels on Mayfair could end friendships. The thrill of accusing Colonel Mustard of murder in the library with the candlestick never faded. Board games taught us strategy, patience, and how to lose or win gracefully. We'd study the rules meticulously, yet every family had their own house rules that sparked heated debates. These shared experiences around the dining table created memories that no individual screen time can replicate. If you remember even half of these things, congratulations. You survived a childhood without smartphones, tablets, or helicopter parenting. We roamed free, created our own entertainment, and learned life lessons through scraped knees and social interactions. Today's kids may have technology we couldn't have dreamed of, but they've lost something precious too. The freedom to make mistakes without them being documented forever online. The 80s gave us freedom, creativity, and a few scraped knees. If this trip down memory lane made you smile, hit that like button and subscribe to see more nostalgic content. What was your favourite 1980s childhood memory? Share in the comments below. Let's keep these memories alive for generations to come.